He was 23 years old and completely broke. No one knew his name. He had no connections and no edge. He picked one neighborhood in New York City. That's it. 6 square blocks. He wrote down every building, every owner, every sale he could find. Then he knocked on doors, day after day, and introduced himself to people who had no idea who he was and had no reason to care either. They didn't care. Not at first. But he came back. And he came back again. Every year. Every building. The same 6 blocks. While other guys were chasing the next hot neighborhood, the next big deal, the next shortcut, he was still there on the same blocks. Same owners. Same relentless, unglamorous routine. 40 years later, he had sold more than 2,200 properties, more than $21 billion in transactions in one of the most competitive real estate markets on the planet. And when someone finally asked his secret, his response, there isn't one. I'm Joe Downs. With me is Peter Swain. We're just a couple of successful idiots using AI to simplify our lives and optimize our businesses. Peter, I'm not going to ask you if you know who it is because you won't. But I am going to ask you.
Unless I cheated and used Google whilst you're talking.
Did you? And first of all, why would you use Google? Wouldn't you just use AI?
Well, that's a great question. We can actually answer that legitimately. Because Google's time to respond is instant and Claude's is 2 seconds, and I would have needed to get it done before you asked the question.
Gemini. All right.
Gemini. New version of Gemini. Big week for Gemini.
Well, all right. I hadn't thought to ask you that, but we can sprinkle that in. But not before we get to our true or false. So, Peter, true or false? The British approach to becoming a domain expert is to read every book ever written on the subject, form a very strong opinion, and then absolutely refuse to share it unless asked twice.
Well, that's old school. The new school is go on Twitter, Facebook, or X, download some footage from 4 years ago and make it look like it's a bigger deal than it is. But traditionally speaking, you're completely right.
I'm going to have a word with Claude about upgrading its British humor here. Give me old true or false. Peter, today I'm going to give you or give our listeners something that runs completely counter to everything the internet AI is trying to sell them. No hack, no shortcut, no secret formula. Well, sort of. You're actually going to provide the secret formula here. But first, to do that, we need to unpack what actually works and how AI can help you build it faster than the people who figured out how to do it the hard way. Like, and I can't believe I'm going to try this, Bob Knakal, who was the commercial real estate broker. And
why don't you know that you can get the researchers that do this for us to get people with names you can pronounce, right?
Well, look, Bob's story is one I want to talk about, and we can't control the names.
Names in the show notes, guys.
Look, it's this one. Admittedly, it's Knakal. All right, so
Knakal.
I wanted to say Knakal. Maybe it's Knakal.
Bobby K. Okay, so Bobby K.
Bobby K. He was probably called Bobby K in the streets of Brooklyn. I think that's where it was. Anyway, once we unpack what actually works, what Bobby K accomplished over a lifetime, then we can unpack how AI can help people today basically replicate what he did. Almost. You can't completely do it, but it can certainly give you the head start, and that's what I want you to help us unpack here. So here's the setup. So I came across something that was written about Bobby K this week, and if you don't know him, I don't expect anybody would. No offense, Bobby K. I hope you listen to this someday. I think you'd understand nobody knows who you are unless we're in that tight-knit community up in New York. But he sold more than 2,200 properties, over $21 billion in New York City commercial real estate. I bet you Donald Trump knows who he is. That's over a career of 40 years, right? That's a number that almost doesn't make sense, right? And I said it in the opening. That's the world's most competitive real estate market, right?
100%. Half a billion a year.
So what he did is just incredible. And he wrote something this week that I think is going to land differently depending on where you are in business. He said that the biggest misconception in commercial real estate brokerage, and this applies to anything, is that success comes from some secret strategy or a perfect script or a magic lead source. And he said after more than 4 decades, he said it's actually very simple. It's not easy, but simple. The brokers who separate themselves are the ones willing to do the basic things consistently for a very long time while everyone else loses focus or quits. And we touched on this a little bit several episodes ago in a very different way. This is a completely different angle and one I really like. Do you remember the mustard episode we did, your mustard business? This was his mustard, these 6 blocks, right? So, and look, I've run into this in self-storage. Every person I talk to that finds out about self or when I get self-storage, they want to know what's the, or the new student, what's the secret, what's the hack, and they want the thing that's going to shortcut the time. And the thing Bob is describing is this relentlessness, this boring, consistent specialization. That's the thing that's the hardest to compete with once it's built. But building it takes the time. It took them, it probably didn't take them 40 years, but it probably took them a good 10 to 20, right? And therein lies the problem for most people, which is why I think a lot of people give up or quit or pivot or add things that aren't their mustard business. But today, Peter, I think AI can actually accelerate the compounding that took Bob K 40 years, because I think he's right. I think what he has become because of what he did is what everyone strives to become. But I also think he's wrong, or at least the line of thinking that we would have agreed with a few years ago, pre-AI, the line of thinking that suggests the only way to do that is time and consistency and dedication, the way Bob did it, is, if not wrong, certainly made obsolete or partially obsolete by AI. And so, Peter, your job today, as you tilt your head in a way I've never seen before, you must be really deep in thought. Your job is to prove me right, and now I'm concerned that you're not going to. So should you accept this challenge?
Well, okay, so I'm going to half accept it. So, because to me, this is one of the reasons that most people like hiring veterans, and it's the reason that collegiate sports is so important.
Interesting. Okay.
Because, we spoke about this before. I was a pretty high-level rugby player. I had a national tryout, so I didn't make it, but I was on the verge of that level of capability. And we only drilled the basics. That was it. Like, at the level of almost national team, and the thing we drilled was basics. Basics, basics, basics. And everybody at our level, this wasn't that we were different, was the same. And anytime I've run into anyone that's a D1 type athlete, there isn't a secret sauce. They just do the things better than everybody else because they just drill them and drill them and drill them and drill them. And the other thing you reminded me of is, have you heard the quote from Will Smith on the treadmill? It's one of my favorite pop quiz quotes. He says, if you and I get on a treadmill at the same time, there are only 2 options. You're going to quit or I'm going to die. Because you may be smarter than me, you may be a better actor than me, you better be maybe sexier than me, but you're not going to outwork me. Yeah, because that's the one thing that he can control.
He was a Philly guy. That's a Kobe Bryant Philly guy. I mean, this is
yeah. Okay.
Rocky.
So a better origin, but it's the same principle.
Rocky
right?
4, Peter.
You're never going to outwork me. And I think that that's something that the armed services, the armed forces do really well. I think it's something that sports does really well, of you don't need advanced stuff. You just need to do the basic stuff really, really well. And I think it's the same in business. So the reason I look so deep in thought is I don't think we're going to prove him wrong. I think he's still right. I don't think AI changes that equation. It just
doesn't.
replaces the equation.
Well, so I might have misled you in my setup there. I didn't say we were going to prove him wrong on everything. What I was saying, there's three basic things, the three components to this, all right? And I want to break them down one by one here. Where I think AI changes the game is the time.
Agreed.
I 100% agree, and we're going to talk about this in a second. The basics, the dedicated, the specialization, right? Specialization in something basic, right? You can specialize in something basic. 100% agree on that. Although I think AI can help, and that's what I want you to unpack here. Where I think the biggest difference is, that the biggest delta, the gap that AI can close, is the 40 years.
100%.
That's the part where I said I think I agree with him, but I think we can prove him wrong on one thing, that if you probably don't remember what I said, was a few years ago we would have all agreed with everything he said. Today, I think I agree with 2 out of the 3 things he said.
Well, I think being an entrepreneur is really an exercise in understanding leverage. It's how do I leverage people? How do I leverage technology? How do I leverage money?
Well said.
How do I mean, that's all it's about, because the aim is to not have a job. The aim is to turn your capabilities, abilities, and skills into monetary return at a multiple that's higher than what you can get done in 1 hour. So the question is, well, where's my leverage? So Bobby K could have done this in 10 years, not 40, by employing 20 people. He might not have been able to financially do that, but he could have had somebody standing on every block every day, noting traffic patterns, looking at what restaurants are coming up, noting how many people are walking in the doors of this restaurant versus that restaurant. So you get my point. He could gather that data quicker than he probably did. I'm not saying he could afford it. I'm not saying it would have been a good idea,
but the
leverage would have been there.
Yeah.
And I don't want to take anything away from what he did, because I think it's a lesson everybody should learn. But what he did was this relentless focus, and his point of leverage was his relentless focus.
Yes. Well, let's get into it. Oh, go ahead.
It's insane. Like, I've been guilty of this in my own business, and because I think as you start something new out, you have to be less focused. You're throwing more against the wall, trying to work out who you are, what it is you do, who your customer is. But you've heard the phrase, what gets you here will not get you there.
Mm-hmm.
That's where we're at as a company right now. And we're in the largest growth sector, I think everybody agree, in the world, of helping people understand AI. So the new opportunities that come my way are like 10 every day. So I've been internally focusing with the team of focus. What do we do? Let's not do that. Let's not do that. Let's not do that. Let's just do this. And let's try and get really good at just doing this.
So you're actually, I didn't even get to set it up, but you're nailing point number 1. And I'm just going to repeat what you said and then ask you where AI comes in. Point number 1 was become a specialist, right? And that's what he did. His edge was knowing every building, every owner, every transaction in his territory better than anyone else on the planet. And that knowledge for him took decades to accumulate manually. And you just were alluding to this. He could have done that faster if money was no issue. He could have done that by hiring a team of 20, 30, 40, 50 people, whatever, working around the clock to accumulate the data. He did it himself, walking the same streets, knocking on the same doors, tracking the same data year after year. Most people don't have 40 years, though, and that's my points. But the goal, to your point, is the same: to become the undisputed authority, the specialist, the specific niche for him in those 6 blocks at first, for anyone else, your niche, your territory, whatever. the person who knows more about that slice of the market than anyone else. So we agree he's right there. That's one of the key pillars. There's 3 pillars, so that's one of them. But how can you use AI to gain that kind of deep specialization, but not in 40 years, rather in 90 days or 6 months? Well, that's what I'm trying to get
from my own space. I have an AI process that kicks off every morning that reads on last count. It reads 460 RSS feeds and email newsletters every day on AI and comes back and tells me what is of interest to my audience. Because one of the key roles that I offer people like yourself and other people in my mastermind and my programs is I'm a discernment filter of like, don't look at this yet. It's not ready yet. It's still in hype stage. Or this is really sexy, but it's not actually going to drive your business forwards. This thing over here, this is really important. So every day this thing runs and it reads RSS feeds and emails and goes, hey, Pete, you should be aware of this, this, and this. And people are always like, wow, how do you know so much about the space? I'm like, because AI goes and finds out everything I need to know and brings it back to me in a 1-page summary that I go, oh, this Google conference was really interesting, Joe. Because it pinged up on my email this morning saying this is going to be a subject people are talking about.
So you're using, what are you using for that, by the way?
A Hermes agent now.
Don't start throwing new agents at us.
You asked the question.
What is a Hermes agent?
Let's go down that rabbit hole another day.
Is it Hermes?
Hermes. It's
I don't even know how to
kind of
it.
The new successor to OpenClaw.
Okay. So you've created an agent that does it for you. How does our listener who's running a small business do this? What do they do? What's an example?
Yeah, Claude now supports routines.
I saw that, but I haven't unpacked that yet. What is that?
So you can hit new routine and say 9 o'clock every morning, and then it'll ask you what prompt to run. And you could simply say, you're an expert researcher on the subject of X. Go out and find the relevant news around ABC that's relevant to my audience of XYZ. Really that simple.
So if they have a web presence, it can find out anything you want to know, right? If I own a bar and restaurant or a chain of them, I could run a routine that looks at all of my competitors' specials. I don't know.
Yep. It could look at City Hall and ordinance that's going to come down that's going to affect you. It could look at how many health and safety violations are being tracked day by day and in what location, so that you can work out where the inspectors are. I'm sure there's patterns of how many inspectors are currently working versus how many violations there are per day, so you can work out if they're staffing up or staffing down. Obviously, I'm sure that every listener we have would obviously have a 5-star rating, but maybe not.
Or Peaky Blinders in their back pocket.
Yeah. What are the national chains doing? What's the Morgan Stanley report on insert blank here? You could literally just get that rolling in every single day.
Oh, even for cost of, I mean, we're sticking with restaurants here, so cost of, I don't even know what they order anymore. Sadly,
so we used to,
but cost of food, right? What's what's up or down? Should I order that from this supplier or that supplier, right?
Yeah, we used to have we had a consultancy contract when we started out with one of the big real estate brokers, and we did a bit of research, and AI did a bit of research, and what we found was the number one differentiator between a successful realtor and an unsuccessful realtor was actually local market knowledge. Because everybody's got the numbers. Oh, I did X million, or I did 5 listings last week. Everybody's got a version of the number, not like Bobby K's numbers, but everyone's got a version of the numbers. I've been here 28 years. So what seemed to make a difference was local knowledge. So what we got it to do was twofold. Number one, find a local event that they could go to or sponsor every day. So it came back and said, hey, the Rotary Club are having a and party in the park this Sunday, because that's where realtors pick up a lot of their business. And the second thing it did was it gave them a feel-good story from local media. So when they're walking around the house to see if they, to try and get the listing, they can say the sentence such as, "Hey, do you see that kid at XYZ high school the other day won the national award for blah, blah, blah?" Which was
what's
the
so
number one
interesting?
differentiator.
What's so interesting is just the evolution since we started this podcast, because we talked about that. Well, part of that, the second part of what you just said, we talked about that in our first or second episode. I remember doing a specific segment for realtors. And you talked about how you could, if they were moving from one place to the other, look at the conditions of where they live, the local economy, the schools, this, that, and talk about what's right here. And I think the specific example you used was, did you see that they're laying new fiber optics, and everyone in this area is going to...
Yeah, we were talking about selling the listing, not gaining a new listing. I remember that.
But look at at how far we've come here now with routines. So 9 months, I don't know how long we've been at this. Since November, I think. So 6-7 months ago, we were talking about just using ChatGPT to find out what's going on, where you're from, what's that like, this is where you're moving to, so that when you're walking through the house with the potential buyer, you could drop things like that, right? Now we're talking about routines and how a realtor can use that to go get more business.
So the way that I'd put it to everyone to think about this, because what we've seen over the last 3 and a bit years of doing this is people hear these examples, but they go, well, how does this match what I do? How do I make that work for me? And the way we always try and explain it is AI can get really good at 2 things. One is this keyboard and mouse. One is the stuff that you do all the time. So what is the stuff you do all the time? Like, for example, we have to create a thumbnail for our videos every week. We create a new Slack channel, a new thread in a Slack channel to discuss what we're discussing that week on the Thursday. So those are things that we're looking to automate away from humans and give to agents. Like tiny, tiny little things like create the Slack channel, create the thumbnail, at me to discuss, to say, what are we discussing this week? These are all things that we now automate through. But then the second thing is, well, what should you be doing that you aren't doing? So, for example, you've just mentioned Bobby K, right?
Mm-hmm. And this is you're going right into point number 2 here, which is consistency.
Somebody on our team should be messaging him when this gets released. Mm-hmm. If we were to do that all year, because we mentioned 2 or 3 notable people pretty much in every episode, we do 1 episode a week. That means that in the course of a year, we mention 110 people, give or take. Call it 100. If AI was to research the person and craft a message to each of those 100 people, I'm willing to bet quite a substantial amount of money that one of the 100 would mention the podcast.
I agree.
Which would drive 1,000 viewers, 2,000 listeners, 5,000. I don't know. I don't know what the number is. But there's nobody in the world that would disagree that we should do that. And we should already do it before AI.
We do it.
Go us. But I think most people would agree, and we talked about this when we talked about conferences, of how many people actually follow up with everybody. It's the same kind of thing of, yes, you know what you should do. But before AI, the predominant word was or. Should I do this or this? Because I do not have the resources to do both. And I think post AI, the predominant word becomes and. Well, I can do this and this because I now have the resources to achieve both at the same time, which I think is a pretty cool future.
So you're kind of. I thought you were going a direct hit on the second one, but you're right on the edge of it. You're dancing around it, and the key point, his second pillar is consistency. And again, it wasn't genius. It was specialization and then consistency. He kept showing up, same blocks, same owners every year, and you're sort of dancing around that right here. But here's the problem. You kind of just answered it. The problem with consistency is it requires willpower, and willpower runs out. It runs out on bad days. It runs out when it's boring. It runs out when nobody's watching and nothing's happening. The results feel a long way off, and I don't think the solution is trying harder, because I think the road to business failure is paved with burned out good intentions. I think the solution is probably building some sort of system that doesn't get burned out and that does the boring work for you, which is what I think you're talking about here.
So I went through this, John, and I think this is a really relevant example, but I went through this on my weight loss journey because it's very similar. Losing weight is not hard. You just eat less than you move. I mean, it really is easy, but it's relentless. And it's the same thing as business success. How you do something is how you do everything. And I remember a conversation specifically with my coach around willpower and food. And she said, you're engineering the wrong part of the system, because willpower is a finite resource. It's produced by the right front ventricle something. It's literally a part of your brain is responsible for stopping the dopamine messages from somewhere else. And it runs out. It has a finite capacity in any given day. She's like, what you're supposed to be doing is not allowing the food in the kitchen in the first place. I'm like, It's about, as you just said, it's about engineering the system for success instead of willpowering your way through the system.
So the goal isn't discipline. In that case, the goal is to design the system where discipline is optional.
100%.
So is Claude routine? I mean, you're talking about trying to get rid of a bad habit. I'll label it a bad habit, right? What about the habits that are not? They're bad. They're things you should be doing for business. I mean, you touched on it a second ago when we talked about going to a conference and sending the follow-ups to all the people. This feels like, I think you already answered it, so I don't know if the air has been sucked out of this pillar, but is routines just the simple answer to setting up these systems? Because it's the boring work that kills you, right?
I think
that's what drains you.
There's always good, better, best in all these. I want to make sure that we're giving answers that people can take away and work with. So are there better solutions than Claude routines? 100%, like Hermes agents. Dozens of ways to go about it.
Hermes, it sounds expensive.
It's free, actually. But if you're on the lowest rung of the ladder going, what are these guys even talking about? Then Claude routines is definitely the way to go.
And you're just using it. Is it easy to set up?
Yeah, 100%. You literally just hit the button that says routines, hit new, say when do you want it to run. There's a drop down, daily, weekly, monthly. You choose daily, and then you choose what time, and then you type in the prompt.
I think I'm going to ask this question I know you hate it, but for the people like me who go, that's amazing. And then they sit down to do it, and then mental block hits in. I don't have any routines. Meanwhile, I probably have 65 routines a week that I can't identify as routines because of the mental block. How could I tease that out of myself? Can AI help me figure out what my routines are?
Here's an easy one to start with. A daily routine that looks for when your sports team is next playing and tells you what channel they're playing on and what time they're playing. And you run that every day.
Oh, all right. Now you're going down some rabbit holes that are okay.
So let me give you an example. I have a morning briefing.
Do I really want that distraction? That's what I'm thinking. It sounds awesome, but
well, you talked about a system that doesn't require discipline.
No, I know, but I'm
So I would say
joking.
if you're a sports fan, you should probably watch you watch whatever it is you wanted to watch.
Yes.
And I think you should design your world around it. So let me give you an example. My morning briefing came in this morning. It tells me the weather, the percentage chance of rain, when my first meeting is, when my last meeting is. It flagged that there was a clash. It gave me my 5 highest priority items from Todoist. It gave me the AI news. It gave me Spurs versus Everton is on Sunday. It told me how many unread emails I had, how many Slack messages I have, and what my current monthly recurring revenue versus monthly recurring costs are.
Is this what you wake up to? So you have a wake up routine.
Yeah, it comes in at 6 o'clock in the morning.
All right, that's a good one. Okay. So I think everyone has a routine they do when they wake up, or things they want to know, and that's a great way to start your day. Maybe you add a little inspirational quote in there.
100%. Or I know somebody that does this and they have a piece of scripture
There you go. That's inspirational.
that speaks to them and works for them. So there's all sorts of different ways to do this. When I'm away, I have a routine that sends both of my kids a dad joke every morning.
Very nice. Are they better than you come up with on your own?
No, they make me laugh as well, to be honest. But it literally it connects to iMessage and just sends them both a message. I have another one that reminds me every day when I'm away to check in with the family. Because it's just, because the time difference, it gets quite hard. And we came up with, on the last trip, I didn't have time. I was like, I just don't have time to do this today. So it came up with the idea of using Postmark, which is an app that lets you send postcards. So you can take a picture in the app and you can have a saved address and you can charge the credits in advance. So the AI didn't do it, but the process of the AI reminding me led me to go, And I then, I just don't have time. I said, why don't you send them a postcard? I'm like, a postcard? It's like, yeah, there's this app. You can do this. I'm like, wow, that's cool. So now when I'm away.
So you take a picture and create your own postcard. Oh, that's cool. What's it called? Postmark?
And the credits are already loaded and the address is already loaded. And when you add the address the first time, you save it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's literally 2 clicks to send the kids a postcard. So I take the picture and it flips. It does the visual flip.
Yeah.
Like a postcard. And then you type on the other side of the screen. And when it prints it in cursive. So it prints it in handwriting. So I'll just take a picture of a statue and I'll just send them, check out this guy. He's got a funny nose. And then they actually get a physical postcard in the post.
Little tip nobody expected out of the show today. I like it.
Yeah, but to me, it's these kind of things I genuinely can say AI has made me a better husband, a better father, a better individual, a better businessman, because I'm not handing my life to it. I'm not handing it my discernment or my decision making. But I can't think of a human, if I just said, I just don't have time to catch up with my kids today, that would have said, why don't you send them a postcard?
Yeah. You're optimizing. You're using AI to optimize your life.
Yeah, and it also led me to the realization that speaking to my kids every day was actually quite selfish. And it was actually about me, not them, which was a weird one. Because I was like, we didn't get to talk today because I called when it was bath time or bedtime or something. And I realized actually it was me that wanted to talk to them, not them wanting to talk to me. And, I'm the one that went away. I'm the one that's doing what I want to do. I don't necessarily get the privilege and the right of interjecting in their life again. But what is important is they know that I'm thinking of them.
Yeah.
So me sending them a picture or a postcard is actually a better way to do things in some way.
Yeah. Although they still want to talk to you, Peter. You got a couple more years before they don't care. Trust me, I'm going through that now. All right. Third pillar.
Anyway,
here.
Kind of pulling this all the way back, where we're kind of focused on is AI can do 3 things, and the third one I think is quite dangerous. The first one it can do is it can do the stuff you're supposed to be doing consistently, without any cognitive load on you. It's like, yeah, it just does it. It just does it. It just does it. The second thing it can do is all the stuff that you're not doing that you should be doing. That is really where Bobby K just nailed it. And the third one, and this is the one that most people do, and I think it's one of the most dangerous things, is to do all the stuff that you can't do. So the amount of people, Joe, you kind of fall into this trap. I fall into this trap. We invent new products. We invent new businesses. We invent new business plans. We come up with new projects, and we don't actually necessarily see an ROI on some of those things. Liz and I were talking this morning about how do you measure the ROI of AI? And most people aren't getting a return on investment on AI because they're not using it to actually do the things in their life that they're already doing better. They're using it to ideate stuff that they're not currently doing.
Guilty.
Which is fun, but is it actually giving you a multiple? Or is it actually just a subscription that's now costing you money?
Interesting. Pillar number 3, or key point number 3 here, and I think this one is massively underused. A lot of people in relationship-driven businesses, and honestly almost every business is a relationship-driven business, they've got years of results, real results, work they've done, clients they've helped, deals they've closed, problems they've solved. But the problem, Peter, is, and I'm guilty of this as well, it's all scattered. It's sitting in old emails. It's in spreadsheets nobody looks at. It's in their memory. It's never been organized into a story. So when they walk into a room and someone asks what they do, and I'm totally guilty of this, which is a horrible thing to be guilty of while you're launching a business, but they give this generic, forgettable answer instead of the best 30-second commercial they could possibly deliver. I don't think Bobby K, whatever we're calling him, I don't think he had that problem because his track record told the story before he opened his mouth. But Peter, how can you, I could answer this actually because I just did this last night after I wrote the show, but how can you use AI to build that, to take years of scattered proof and turn it into something that closes deals? But before it closes deals, gives you your elevator pitch or your 30-second, commercial, whatever it is, which is authentic to you. So you're not even making it up. You're just organizing. How can AI help us do that?
Yeah, I think there's multiple paths. There's we've gone down this before, the interview path. The interview me on was certainly one of them. But I would probably prefer in this, again, using Claude with their connectors and connecting your Google Drive, connecting your Google Mail, right? Just connecting everything where all of these silos of data lives, and then asking Claude to go and find them for you.
And create. Oh, that's a great point, because the prompt you're likely to give is, hey, I want you to find me proof that I did all this stuff or whatever I want. But Claude might, in that search through those connections, come up with something that you didn't even think of, that you were 100%. An expert at, or something you should highlight.
Look at my Google Drive, look at my Gmail, look at my LinkedIn, look at the website, do a web search for me, and come back with a 30-second compelling story of who I am.
And while you're doing that, I got my juices flowing here. Why not compare me to my competitors so I can add that into my 30-second commercial?
Yeah, I would advocate for people not to focus too much about the competition, but allow it to sprinkle in some seasoning for sure.
Yeah, I don't mean name them. I mean highlight how I'm different.
Yeah, I think that's the key piece of what is your differential, and speaking into that versus and just for people that haven't done this before, you don't ever want your competitors' names to come out of your lips,
right? But
you do want to make sure you're leaning into your mustard.
Yes, I like it. All right, now I'm going to put you on the hot seat here for a second. What do you do when someone genuinely doesn't have much of a track record? Is there a version of this prompt for someone who's, in those first couple of years, they don't have the Bob Knakal, Bobby K, 20, 30, 40 years. They don't even have 10.
Yeah, I think it would be a very similar thing of just a conversation with Claude and just hey, I need the talk track of who is me and how do I show up and that 30-second commercial, but I don't have any meaningful experience in this area. Help me craft it. Ask me questions in order to gain the juice, because the answer is you do. You just do. If you've lived in New York for a decade, you're an expert in New York real estate, arguably.
If you lived in New York for a decade, you're an expert in New York real estate?
Yeah, you could say the sentence, I may have never sold real estate, but I have lived in New York for a decade.
Oh, you could make the case. I gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, you're not going to compete with, Bobby K or Shahan or whoever it might be, but you're going to get enough to walk in the door.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think the this show resonated with me because of those three pillars. It kind of hit me differently than and I know we talked about the mustard business before, but this was in a completely different angle, and I love the fact that the secret here is no secret. Show up, specialize, be consistent. But I couldn't help but read that with an AI lens, and that's why I wanted to bring it up as a show. I don't think it takes 40 years anymore. I think we can use AI.
It doesn't take 40 years. It also doesn't take 20 people. This is why we have this kind of benchmark that we're aiming for of, can we create 300 solopreneur millionaires in the next year? And I think we can.
Yeah. No, I think you're right. And that's an awesome goal. And they can do what they're doing, right? And they can specialize, they can be consistent, and they can use AI to cook with gas, right? In ways that Bobby K couldn't. He didn't have that. His gas, unfortunately, was just time, right? It was consistent. It worked, but it was time.
Imagine somebody with his kind of chutzpah starting today with AI. Whew.
If he had AI, yeah, right. Well, there's people out there, yeah. I mean, they're going to be game changers.
But that's when you talk to people at that level, and I've had Bruce speaking to some of them. When you ask them if you could do if you only learnt one skill now, what would it be? That every single one of them's like AI, because it's leverage. This is unlimited, untapped leverage for sub $100 a month.
And I think that was your point in the beginning, right? Imagine if he had 20 people, 40 people, 60 people, if he could afford them to stand them on every corner. That's AI's just replacing all that, right?
Yeah, you could have literally somebody whose full-time job it is to, keep track on City Hall. Someone whose full-time job it is to look at traffic patterns. Someone whose full-time job it is to look at the price of food. Someone whose full-time job it is to read every single New York Times, New York Post. And you could just replace all of them with AI.
Yeah. So, and I think that the takeaway here is AI doesn't change the formula. Bobby K's formula is still very much intact. It just makes the showing up faster and more systematic. And the willingness to keep going is still entirely on you. It just doesn't have to take 40 years anymore. Right? And you don't have to be drained by the boring, consistent routines that it took to become who Bobby K became. We can rely on, in a way, we can be lazy Bobby K's is what I'm taking away from this. All right, perfect. I don't think that's the message he wanted me to take away from it, but.
Well, you can be lazy, but you said it.
Smart.
And I was actually going to. Well, no, you said the phrase that everybody's in the relationship business. I would say that everybody better be in the next couple of years. Because once you've automated and handed over all of the kind of the drudgery to AI, you're in the position to really truly invest in the relationships.
Well, you can spend more time on it.
That's going to be where people, 100%. I think that's where people will clean up.
Yeah.
In the next couple of years, people that have got rid of all the stuff they had to do, so they can now just do the connection stuff. Because connection, community, and trust aren't going anywhere. AI can't do those things.
Yeah,
those are the things that are going to be incredibly valuable, because they're the things that humans can do very, very well.
That'll be the new currency for sure. And you're right. And AI doing all the boring, consistent stuff that has to be done frees up your time to focus on that and get better at that. So, All right, Peter, before we close here, just take a second here just to be honest with you about something. Everything, or with our listener, everything Peter and I talk about in the show, as I say in my opening, we use AI to optimize our businesses and improve our lives. And Peter said it's made me a better father, husband, whatever. Hasn't made him a better co-host yet, but I kid. But that's truly what we mean. So we're not just two talking heads here. We're actually using it. It's not theory. I'm using it right now. AI, that is, to build StorageMoguls.ai. That's my self-storage education platform for first-time buyers of self-storage. Peter he's not just my co-host, he's my consultant on Storage Moguls and another business I have. He's the guy I call when I need to make sure the AI implementation actually works and doesn't just sound good. He also runs his own mastermind and consulting practice at peterswain.com. So if you're an entrepreneur who wants to actually implement this stuff, like Peter and I do, both in our businesses and in our personal lives, you might want to start listening to Peter, join his mastermind, peterswain.com. He's got an AI audit. Are you still offering the audit?
Yeah, we've got stuff running all the time. So peterswain.com, it'll be whatever we're doing at the time will be on the homepage.
So again, folks, we're not just two talking heads. We actually are using it. We're eating our own cooking here. I felt the need to say that because I wonder, one person I ran into was a question, well, how much AI do you actually use? I was like, all as much as I can, not enough was my answer. I learn something new every week, every day, and wish I had more time to implement more. We're getting there, but folks, please like and subscribe. It's one button, costs you nothing, and it's the only way the algorithm knows we're worth showing to more people, which we are, allegedly. And share this with someone who's still looking for the shortcut. This episode is the shortcut. It's not just the one they were expecting, right? Keep the emails coming as well. Love reading them. If you have questions we can help you with, send those. Love the fanfare, the accolades. We sincerely appreciate it. But we'd like to help. So if you've got something, an issue at work, in your industry, in your business, shoot us an email, idiots@successfulidiots.com, idiots@successfulidiots.com. For Peter Swain, I'm Joe Downs. We are your successful idiots. Thank you for listening. We mean it. We'll see you next week.